From a land of ancient gods to a global titan of technology, the story of Japan is just this whirlwind of isolation, revolution, destruction, and then rebirth. Okay, let's dive right into this incredible journey.
So you're looking at a torii gate, a symbol of Shinto, which is Japan's native religion. It really represents a belief system that's woven into the very landscape of the islands, a world where spirits, or kami, are believed to live in nature itself. It's just the perfect symbol for the deep, ancient roots of Japanese culture.
And that's really the big question we're digging into here. How did a nation so defined by tradition, so isolated for centuries, manage to transform itself, not just once, but multiple times, to become the country that we all know today? To really get Japan, you have to start with the land itself. You see, being an island nation wasn't just a physical barrier, it was a psychological one. It was like a crucible that would forge this unique and really powerful identity.
I mean, think about it. This separation from the Asian mainland created this very strong sense of us. And over hundreds of years, that feeling evolved into this powerful ethnocentrism, this belief that the Japanese people and their culture were distinct, maybe even special. This idea is going to be a recurring engine of change all throughout its history. What's so fascinating about early Japanese culture is how these two huge belief systems managed to coexist and even intertwine. On one hand, you have the native Shinto faith, which tied the imperial family directly to the divine, the sun goddess, making the emperor a living god. And then Buddhism arrives from the mainland, and it brings with it this profound philosophy and this wave of cultural influence that would shape literally everything from art to government.
And that brings us to one of the most iconic periods in Japanese history for sure. The elegant, aristocratic world of the imperial court, it begins to crumble. And a new power rises from the provinces, the warrior. Now, this wasn't some kind of overnight coup. It was more like a slow-motion power shift playing out over centuries. So while the emperor was holding court in the capital, a figure with immense spiritual authority but very little real control, actual power was just bleeding out to the provinces. Out there, warrior clans were getting stronger, managing their own lands, their own armies, until they were powerful enough to seize control of the state itself, creating the very first military government, the shogunate. And you've got to understand, the samurai weren't just hired muscle. No way. They became the new political and social elite. Their power was built on land, on military might, and on this fierce code of loyalty to their lord. And this completely reshaped Japanese society. And this new warrior class shows that power wasn't just for men. Just take Hojo Masako, the widow of the very first shogun. She was an absolutely formidable political force. When the emperor tried to reclaim power, she didn't even hesitate. She personally rallied the samurai and crushed his rebellion. They called her the Nun Shogun, and she secured military rule for decades. So after centuries of civil war, Japan is finally unified in the year 1600 under the Tokugawa clan, and they bring in over 250 years of peace. But it was a peace that came at a very, very high price. It was like a gilded cage. To keep control, the Tokugawa shogunate created this incredibly rigid social hierarchy. At the top, you had the samurai, the rulers. Below them were the peasants, the productive backbone of society, followed by artisans. And what's really interesting is that merchants were at the bottom, officially, because they didn't produce anything tangible. This whole structure was legally enforced to stop anyone from moving up and to just lock the nation in place. This quote, it's just chilling. It really reveals the harsh reality of this system. Peasants, who made up about 80% of the population, were just systematically exploited. They were taxed relentlessly, sometimes forced to give up to 70% of their harvest, all to support the samurai class living above them. But, and this is what's so wild, even inside this rigid system, culture just found a way to flourish. While the official ideology was all strict and hierarchical, down in the cities, a new, vibrant urban culture just exploded. This was the floating world, or ukiyo. It was a world of kabuki theater, sumo wrestling, beautiful woodblock prints. It was an escape, a world of pleasure and art that was a total contrast to the strict official rules of society. So for over 200 years, Japan was basically sealed off from the world. But in the mid-19th century, the West came knocking, and Japan was forced to change at a breathtaking, almost terrifying speed. This was a revolution, no doubt, but
but it came from the top down. Japan's leaders, terrified of being colonized, decided the only way to survive was to become like the West. So, in this incredibly short amount of time, the old feudal system was completely dismantled. The samurai class was abolished, which was a profound social shock. They built factories, railways, telegraph lines. They transformed a feudal society into an industrial nation in a single generation. It was incredible.
So you had one camp of reformers arguing that to avoid being colonized, like their neighbors, Japan had to fully embrace the West. Their slogan was literally civilization and enlightenment. They pushed for Western science, political ideas, even social customs. But there was this powerful countercurrent. At the same time, the government pushed a state ideology that was all centered on the emperor. The imperial rescript on education demanded absolute loyalty, patriotism, and reverence for the emperor, blending traditional Shinto and Confucian values with a new modern nationalism. This created this deep, powerful tension right at the heart of modern Japan. And this potent mix of rapid industrialization and emperor-worshipping nationalism, well, it would lead Japan down a very dark path of militarism and imperial expansion, culminating in the absolute devastation of World War II.
The war in Asia was just brutal. And events like the Nanjing Massacre in 1937, they stand as this horrific testament to the extremes of this period, where hundreds of thousands of unarmed civilians and prisoners of war were killed.
So after its total defeat in 1945, Japan was utterly transformed again, this time under Allied occupation. The military was dismantled, a new constitution renounced war, the emperor was reduced to a purely symbolic figure, and these sweeping democratic reforms, including full voting rights for women, were introduced. It laid a completely new foundation for the nation.
And what happened next was nothing short of miraculous. Seriously, from the absolute ashes of war, Japan's economy just exploded. It was fueled by a combination of things: those democratic reforms, U.S. aid to rebuild, a powerful partnership between the government and industry that was laser-focused on exports, and this intense national drive to rebuild. It was a combination that turned the defeated nation into the world's second-largest economy in just a few decades. So, we've just raced through centuries of dramatic change. But what about today? I mean, how does this incredible history still echo in modern Japan?
Oh, the echoes of the past are everywhere. The fierce loyalty a samurai once had for his lord. You can see it reflected in the lifetime commitment of a salaryman to his company. The emphasis on group harmony, which was absolutely essential for survival in a dense, rice-growing society, still shapes decision-making in a modern boardroom. These values have been adapted, of course, but they continue to shape one of the most unique societies on Earth.
From the age of the samurai to the era of the salaryman, Japan has proven it has this incredible capacity for reinvention. And it leaves us with a final, fascinating question. As it faces new challenges, like an aging population and a shifting global landscape, what will the next great transformation of this nation look like?